Can't hear him. Okay.
Yes, I can see
All
you.
right, beautiful. Well, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to hear what we got to say tonight. We sure do appreciate it. Some of you don't remember me. My name is Joe Detomaso. I work for a company by the name of Detomaso, and we are the Lieber/Vertiv rep for Northeast Ohio. With me tonight is my associate, Jarrod Kroah. Jarrod's actually about a year and a half now, Jarrod. Yeah. So responsible for all products that we sell, so not only thermal products like precision air conditioning, but also UPS systems and power distribution. We also do monitoring with leak detection. So if you ever need anything in that aspect, you need rope leak detection, point leak detection, any of that kind of equipment, give us a shout, and we can be happy to give you a quote. But what we wanted to talk about tonight is something very interesting that is really making a big push through the data center, computer room. What's that? Well, we do, yeah, Cole. We got a bunch of different stuff. We're going to show you some things tonight, but really what it concerns tonight is about AI and how AI is affecting the data center and what kind of heat loads now that we are having to deal with. So without any further ado, I'll let Jarrod run through the presentation and stop us if you have any questions.
Thank you, Joe. Who's heard of Moore's Law? Anyone heard of Moore's Law? But the description up here, because I knew I'd probably fumble through describing it, but essentially back in the day, co-founder of Intel said that the number of transistors on a microchip would double roughly every 2 years. And it started out, obviously, theoretically, right? But over time, it held true. And it held true right up to about 2013, 2014, when GPUs were created. Now, they were created for, honestly, video gaming to help get images render faster. What they found out was that they could compile GPUs to work in the same way that computer chips work together. All of a sudden, Moore's Law went out the window. Red line here, this is just the NVIDIA product line, but the rest of the market is following it. It's so far off the chart now with computing power. Right there, Blackwell, which is now in the market. People in the Cleveland market have Blackwell. A year ago, it was like science fiction. Okay, now it's in the market. 2 billion transistors. This is 208 actually billion transistors on a chip. It's crazy. And the ability for computational processing is, hopefully changing our lives better as it comes through, particularly on, medical advancements, on causal, that's what I'm trying to say, trying to find causal relationships between, factors out in the environment and different diseases and drugs and cross-referencing, maybe hopefully helping us solve some of the biggest medical issues of time. Blackwell being in the market, there's 4 different chips already on the architecture plan for NVIDIA. So the plan is, just going through the roof with compute power. What that means is, right there at Hopper was the last of their chips that can be air cooled. Starting with Blackwell, everything's got to be liquid cooled. We can, Joe, if you want to hit the space bar. And
which, that's it, the space bar?
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
When we look at, this is a similar outline. Remember the Moore's Law line, right? That's where CPUs would have been going as far as this is that thermal design power. B200, that's E100, B200, that's Blackwell. We're well within the need for liquid cooling when the thermal design power exceeds 700 or 800 watts per chip. You have to go to liquid cooling. CPUs that were being developed and are still being developed for the rest of us folks to use, but like our computers. Generally not getting over 600. Blackwell's already at 1200. They already told us what the name of the next one was. I forget what it is, but it's like 1800. I mean, it's just crazy how hot these things are getting. But at the same time, it means a lot of good things for the rest of us. So everything's got to be changed. The infrastructure that they have can't really support it. Go ahead, Jim. Here's a general look at where we're at. The power, as we said here, 1200 watts. That's Blackwell. We're so far beyond what cooling a chip with air would be. And even in the sense of Vertiv product line that Joe and I work with every day, a year ago, products they were developing, products they were putting into the market, they've already discontinued. Things have moved so fast. They had a product they thought would work at 100 kilowatts. That's 30 tons, right? Cooling need in a rack. Gone. They're not even going to sell it. The new chips are starting at 120, 140 kilowatt. So divide that by 3, that's your ton. Cooling per rack. You can't do it with air. You can't get enough air through it. That's why you got to do it with. Go ahead and move to there. And here's a representation of what the cooling technology can handle. I mentioned you've got 100 plus kilowatts per rack. If you had containment, who's familiar with containment, basically boxing in the cold air to go through the servers. The active rear door heat exchanger, which is a big, heavy set of fans and coil on the back of a door as it pulls the air out of the servers through it to cool the air that's then going back into the room. So it's like a room neutral, should be giving you the same temp that's coming in the front of the rack. Even with that, we're barely reaching, 150 kilowatts. The next version of chips will just be completely beyond. Even if they said they could do it with air, it's not going to work. The physics don't allow it. Take the heat away.
So I could tell you this, that right now, if you had a raised floor application and you had let's say the middle tables are row racks and that center thing is a cold outlet. This is a cold outlet. This was a raised floor, and you got racks. We got racks here, and you got a raised floor blowing cold air up, and then this would be your hot aisle. The maximum that we could actually cool with conventional air conditioning, a raised floor, overhead ducted, whatever the case may be, would be about 5 kW per rack. That's it. So it was like 5 kW server, and then you wouldn't be able to put any more in because you can't cool it. So this won't have 5, that won't have 5. Maybe they'd overload the next one, but you start running into problems. So you can get an idea of what conventional data center cooling, precision cooling, what you can actually do with a raised floor application, and why he's going to show you some of the stuff tonight that when you look at those numbers at the top, 15, 20, 30, 50, up to 200 kW per rack, just in a rack, a 24-inch rack, the heat is unbelievable, right? So Jarrod's going to show you some of this stuff, just to give you an idea.
One of the guys at Vertiv who's been there forever was saying, to go from a kilowatt per rack to 10 kilowatts per rack, which seemed crazy that in his career, right? That took 30 years.
Yep.
So right now in Cleveland, you've got places with 20, 30, right? And that's dense. Like we can feel it. I mean, they have to be, especially cool. They've got rear door heat exchangers. I mean, talking about if you got the money, you can buy something way down there right now. So even when I started 18 months ago, those things were out.
Yeah, how much different?
Now, not only the out, we've got all the products you can buy today if you wanted to supplement, to support it, which is wild. They're moving faster on the development of products faster than they ever have.
Okay.
So here would be a typical liquid cooling setup. They refer to it as primary and secondary. So your primary side is filling water, right? You got your show tower. There it goes to CDUs. CDU is coolant distribution unit. That's where it's sending its own proprietary fluid. Every server manufacturer has their own fluid you have to use, which starts out at 25% propylene glycol. And it has different additives. And they're all different. And by the way, if you mix them, they just turn to jelly. So you can't play with, they can't play well with each other. They won't know. So you got a rack of, NVIDIA chips. And that CDU is putting through, what they say, 1.5 liters per minute per kilowatt. Well, Blackwell is 120 kilowatts times 1.5. That's how many liters per minute going through the rack at 100 micron size panels through the chips. So it's significant. That's what it takes to remove that heat. In case you're wondering, 1 second of downtime is time to criticality. So they lose cooling for 1 second, it's melts itself down. So you can't have a generator anymore. So the racks, the CDUs, before this, cooling was not on generator backup, cooling was not on UPS power. Your mechanical loads were considered way too intrusive for that when they had the inrush power for startup. Nowadays, you lose power, they can't be down for more than a second. So they've got a battery backup for them.
So go ahead, Tom.
Are they running at a above dew point temperature on that fluid? Or
So it's all in, I don't know, it's got it. We have to be conscious of dew point, but that has not come to play with these hoses and how we actually get that chilled solution into these cool chips. So if you look at that CDU there, that's the thing that he's talking about, has to be UPS protected. So if that CDU, which has pumps in it and flow regulators and different things, that has to stay online so that if that goes down and we stop moving fluid, then you might as well just, everything crashes.
what temperature what temperature are you running at?
I don't know, what was that? The temperature on that stuff?
Yeah. So, and that's a whole other ball of wax. I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of it. Right now, they're looking at what they say, 4-degree approach temperature. So they're talking about if it comes in at 70, it's going out at 74, 75. They want to use as little energy as possible to keep that moving, right? The future is the governments around the world have told the server manufacturers, you can't keep requiring 70 degrees. It's got to be higher. So the roadmap for all the servers down the road is they want to operate, 90, 95, 100 degrees, which is great because that makes economization available in almost everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the ability to use air cooled in a lot of places, economize, just get it down below 90, right? Energy usage is going to be significantly less. Now, they're not robust enough to handle that yet, but that is coming down the road. At that point, it's not even a chiller. They just call it a trim cooler.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, it's just moving water or moving liquid. So it's kind of nice in that sense.
So we're not controlling humidity in the space at all.
Well, no, you still need your perimeter cooling. Because not every rack in the space is going to have these servers that we're talking about. There's going to be normal servers, but this is for high heat density. So depending on what the customer is, they could have one of these XDUs or CDUs, and they could have like one rack loaded up. But then the rest of the data center, it would be normal racks, maybe 5 kW, and they need humidity control and all that stuff. So think about this for guys that have been around a long time. You might remember that a long time ago, okay, we used to have chillers that provided chilled water to IBM mainframes. All right, we had to cool those mainframes down with that chilled water. So that required a dedicated chiller to take care of that, but you still had the rest of the room that you had to take care of with regular air conditioning. Well, this basically is the same thing, only the passages that are going to the servers that are so small that the passage that goes around to cool that chip are like what, the size of a hair, right?
It's like a
So-
micro channel coil.
Well, yeah, and even smaller than that. So you got to think that that solution that you're circulating through there, and I think Jarrod will touch on this later, that has to be as pure and clean as, like, what are we talking, 250 microns?
25 microns is the filtration.
Oh, 25, I'm sorry. 25. And so it's absolutely nuts to think about how this solution is getting delivered from that secondary side, okay, to the CDUs. And we'll go through it some more,
Yeah.
but the reason he's talking about that, like that CDU in the yellow and the CDU in the green, cool distribution units, they have to be UPS power protected, so they cannot go down. So it changes the whole game.
Speaking of air cooling, what you brought up. It's a common misconception when you first talk about this. It's not all liquid. Even within the chip itself, the GPU, the chip is liquid cooled. It's got a cold plate. It's got a plate there that's running that liquid 7, whatever. Parts of that, the memory, there's all these acronyms, all the different parts of it, the memory, all these other parts, those have to be air cooled.
Okay.
The UPSs in the room have to be air cooled. The rough ratio is like between 10 and 30% of that room's load has to be air. So it's still a lot of air. Well, let's think about this. You got a room with 90 kW, and it's roughly a factor of 3. That means you got 30 tons of cooling. You got 30 tons of cooling in this room, 90 kilowatts in all these racks. We're going to put one rack now that's 120. Let's say you put 3 of them. Okay. Now you got 360. A third of that load is still air. So now I got 120 kilowatts of just air load. 40 tons. Now I got more air. Now I need more air for 3 racks than I needed for the whole room. And there's just 3. And they're talking about doing all of them. So, your work's not going anywhere on the air cooled side. You're still gonna have DX. There's still gonna be a lot of it. In fact, more of it.
Yeah. Still need humidity control, and even though manufacturers are getting a little wider range on humidity now, there's still all the big computer rooms are still going to control humidity on the low end.
You're running that water.
Yeah. And you'll see that I think we have some other. You ready for the next
Yeah,
one?
keep going. The next one has like that where it started. Oh, here's
That gives you an idea what that's a server. That's a server that's in a rack, right? So they call it cold plate.
it's a the picture's kind of see. This is a manifold that's got water coming from one of those CDU units, right? There's a dripless coupling connected here. This is early in the day when early in the process, like in the last 2 years, where they had solid connection. Now they've learned their lesson, they're all generally flex. But
Basically, like what's that hose you use? That red and blue.
that's like packs, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead, Jared.
You got all the plates and then it's feeding back out. There's another matching manifold that runs the whole anchor. Well, back to the CDU.
So who's familiar with the data center and seen data center racks? Everybody pretty much. And you open up the back of it, and what do you see? On each side, there's power strips, right? So those power strips feed the servers. They're usually dual corded, so that they have like an A and B feed that feed these servers. Well, in this case now, is you're going to have another strip, okay, with supply and return on it for water. And those are feeding. They would actually. Do you have a picture of that, Jared? Do you think?
Go ahead and expand this whole slide. One more thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, as we discussed, Manifolds, that's at the rack level above. Um, again, this is kind of an older slide, had a lot of plastic in use here. But most of the time now, they're telling us this is 304 stainless. So big money in the fabrication of the manifolds, because a stainless manifold 20 feet long. I just priced the other day with the connections for this. A pair of them was 100 grand.
Are those manifolds all proprietary to the servers themselves?
No, so what the standards come all the way down to the point of connection. So when they buy the server, they're buying it with the cold plate and the dripless connection here. From here, the connection on out. There's a couple that are in the market that have been talked about. Everyone's got their hand in it. They're called, got their, they're all relatively similar, dripless coupling that lock in, but in and out, very minimal air intrusion. They all still have bleeders and stuff bouncing around on the manifolds up above, but yeah, they're trying to make it so that it can be kind of whatever you buy into up to the point of the chip, the plate itself. At that point, then you got to use what they give you. That's a couple $1 million to me. If you were in.
So you could see even like he's quoting that job right now for Case Western, the manifolds that run along the top, somebody's gonna have to do that piping. Eventually, Vertiv is gonna tell you, Mr. Contractor, you can buy these from us, okay, where you can hook your supply and returns come off of it. Right now, we don't have it, but it would be work for you where you'd have to build stainless, supply and return lines, along with putting bleeders and ports and all that. It would be pretty much involved. This is, there's no easy solution here, but I can tell you this, that it is happening, and this AI stuff is not going away. If anything, it's getting crazier by the day, and we're literally by the day. Where it used to take 10 years to make a change in this industry is now happening in like a month.
We all had our doubts a year ago, maybe around start of this year.
Yeah.
But as things progressed throughout this year, stuff we just did in our training, I just did the training we just came from.
Yeah.
I did it in January and it was already
Totally changed.
they were like, well, you got to come back.
So here's what he was talking about before. He mentioned rear door. Okay. So this is basically, you got a rack, you got these servers in there now. You actually, all that heat that's pouring out of there that we can't control up that supply air coming out of the floor or whatever, put a rear door actually on the back of the server to tame that air, so to speak. So instead of it being 100 degrees coming out of there, it's maybe 75 degrees or something like that. Now, basically, you're circulating chilled water. And then I got that thermal wall. So, I'm just chiming in a little bit here and there.
And this is what we talked about before. And it's not all liquid. We still got a ton of air, 10 to 30%. We see these numbers depending on all the things that happen here. This can be, a lot of them that we saw in the last couple of days, 20, 25%. There's still a lot of air. It needs to be moved. So, another look at this, but filtration for the system under key concepts, 50 microns or less. They were telling us this week they've had anybody that asked for anything more than 25 microns of filtration for a long time. So that number keeps coming down as they're basically said as soon as they started to offer it, everyone said, yes, do that. Because if the channels are 100 microns, we're not taking any chances. So fluid temps to the cold plate C 86 to 95. So that's already on the radar. Asked the numbers we were talking about today with some folks from the 70s, but I mean they're already
changing it.
They're already, it's already moving. Flow rate 1 to 1.5 liters per kilowatt. They told us, it's a 1.5 and they're talking about moving it up, but they got to get pumps. They can do that first. we're kind of at the limit right now for some market. And the secondary fluid is being monitored, progressively throughout the system in real time for its mineral conductivity, hardness. So it's a lot, the fluid testing not only gets done on a PM basis and gets sent away to the manufacturer for the chemical, but they're also monitoring it in real time at the CDU. Yeah, this is what we already talked about, but these servers have 1 second loss of flow without catastrophic shutdown, and that is literally the heat load. It comes to that. So
that's why it's gotta be on a UPS.
and we talked today, they were telling us at the very least 415 to 77 is the power in the market for these setups. A lot are just going straight to 480. Every server room we go into right now is a ton of stuff on 120.
Oh yeah.
But not gonna happen.
Yeah, they're throwing the whole thing on its own, they're changing everything, and you might have a customer. That's why I asked you before if you had any customers that you're in computer rooms. They may throw this at you and say, "Hey, Tom, we have a AI rack coming in, and it's going to be X amount of kW, and it has to be liquid cooled." All right. Well, if that time comes, all you got to do is call Jarrod or I, and we'll be able to tell you exactly what you need to cool that down, how you need to cool it, if it's an air to air, if it's chilled water, if it's pumped refrigerant. There's all kind of different ways to do it, but you'll see in this here he's going to explain some of this liquid air, liquid refrigerant.
So here's some of the different general types of CDUs that we've got. Remember at the very beginning I said we've got stuff that we were producing, didn't make it more than a year, they're already obsolete. Here's a perfect example. In-rack CDU, it's here in the bottom, sits down there, it could cool the rack, it would have its own connections going to the manifolds in the rack. 100 kilowatts, that's 30 tons of cooling, right? That's already obsolete. The Blackwell servers are 120, but no one's buying it. And everyone else is playing catch up with NVIDIA. They're all going to put the same thing out there. So yeah, we designed, manufactured, put into the market, all that work. You got
Blew right by us.
Got upsizing now. So the in-rack stuff is still good. The in-rack stuff is still significant for a couple reasons. One, you got, no one's got that, not everyone has all the money, right? So maybe they're just going to want to use this. Well, colleges, hospitals, depending on who it is, doctor, professor says, I want this server. Another guy says, I want this one. Now we can't use the same fluid in the network. So they got to be their own rack, their own cooler to run their own proprietary fluid. So these are always going to have a purpose because of that. Maybe until one day they'll come to their senses and decide to standardize on a fluid, but right now it's a money grab. So there's 15 different.
Does anybody in the room see this article that came out about a month ago about Lubrizol and how they developed this fluid for immersing servers? It's actually a non-conductive fluid that they developed, and we're all talking tonight about cooling a chip down. Okay. But they actually have another where it looks like picture that table, it looks like a chest. Okay, where you take a server, right? Like you see in a computer room, you take a server and you actually put it in this chest that's full of this non-conductive fluid. And that's how it rejects heat, right? So you just modify the server but it's I think it was on Cleveland Cranes, if you read that at all, and where else did it come out? ASHRAE did put an article on it. And Lubrizol developed this stuff right here in Wickliffe, Ohio. They developed this fluid, this non-conductive fluid. So that may be another thing you see, but we're not really talking too much. It's just called immersion, and that might be something you see. But this is the more popular, so to speak, of what what we're seeing out there.
You know, I'm not that computer savvy, tech savvy in the sense of like building a computer or anything like that, but you know, the guys at Vertiv tell me as long as it's non-conductive, any computer will run in it. So they had a guy who said at his house he has a laptop in a fish tank of mineral oil. And it runs.
Kind of freaks me out. I can't
As long as
believe
it
it,
doesn't
right?
conduct electricity.
I'd be like, you gotta be kidding me. This is, I'm not used to that, right? Not used to that at all.
So the same principle.
Don't forget, we breathed in a sack for 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So the same principles apply. What we saw at one of our clients, they had an early form of immersion or service getting down in it. And it's that in itself is in its infancy. So is the direct to chip.
Yeah.
They've already been talking about what they call phase 2. So phase 1 is all liquid, right? Phase 2, there's a phase change. So in phase 2, the fluid goes into the chip, boils off, vapor leaves, condenses, goes back. There's better heat transfer in that phase change. So phase 2,
Just like a regular,
Carrying a latent heat away.
yeah.
just like a regular air conditioning system.
And immersion is the same thing. It's sitting in there. It will boil off, condense at the top and down, go back into the tank. So there's a lot coming. Hopefully not too quick because we just got to this point. But
So and the reason I say that, the post office, New Sadie and Townie, hey, Leverts are doing okay. Those new CompuAir units, they're doing okay. But we just got this new server in, and we need to liquid cool it. Okay, how are you gonna do it? All right, so let us know when you need to do that.
Mineral oil.
Oh, can I go too fast?
Oh, you can go. Just go back here. Just this.
What arrow, up or down or what?
You know what?
There it goes.
There we go.
I got it.
So I mentioned that this is interact. This is a perimeter system or an in-row system. So this would be serving up to a 1350 kilowatt. That's going to serve multiple racks. That's going to be sitting at the end of the aisle. That's all liquid to liquid, right? So you got a chiller, you got chilled water, cooling that, but its fluid is separate in its own network. You got liquid to air. It's going to sit right next to a rack. That's rejecting heat to an air,
We're in the room, right?
right in the room. You got liquid to refrigerant, which is nice, rejecting that heat to the refrigerant. So you have a condenser somewhere.
Yeah. Are you guys familiar with our pumped refrigerant at all? Anybody familiar with that? I think I talked about it the last time I was here. I don't need to go into it, but basically, Liebert has a patent on cooling a room with pumped refrigerant. So if the temperature gets below 60 degrees, we actually will shut compressors off, move the refrigerant with a pump, and still have change of state of your refrigerant. But quite an energy saver because now you're shutting off maybe 15 horse compressors, 20 horse compressors, and running a pump to move the refrigerant. That's something we could talk about if you ever, but anyway, that would be that last, similar to what that is. That would be pumped refrigerant, liquid to refrigerant.
This is just another look at, again, a product that's already in the graveyard because it's only 100 kilowatts.
Yeah.
Same principles apply, same setup, just larger capacity. Here we're showing this original design had filtration on the side, and that actually required it coming out, which meant downtime. No. So new designs, dual filtration off the front, so they can be serviced without coming out of duty. So there's already been some considerable improvements to these designs, but I mean, moving that much liquid in that little package, it's pretty impressive what they've been able to do with it. Now this is something cool place flex. This is an interesting one, and this is really not within the realm of what we had just discussed, but this is just an idea of how much future proofing these places need. This system will either do air cooling or liquid cooling. It's set up from the factory to both. You can deploy this on the outside. So this is the room entrance, building entrance side. you apply the twist on the perimeter of the building. Blow air in, right? So you're using this for your air cooling. At some point, maybe liquid cooling demand goes up. It can switch over into its own giant CDU and provide liquid cooling. So this product is what's part of the modular type approach that a lot of places are using. Things are growing so quickly. A lot of the big deployments they're doing is just basically an empty building. Plug these things onto the outside, power these big guys, and then build out the racks on the inside.
So yeah, it's a lot more than what we used to do with perimeter cooling, like units that sit in the computer room. We now have rooftops. You know, we have chillers, liquid to cool, phase, all kind of different stuff.
With downtime being such obviously critical.
Yep.
How much redundancy?
Everything.
Everything is huge. You're right. Everything is
Zero single point of failure. They were talking about today as we're going through, especially on the power side, you know, 4 to make 3, 3 to make 2, depending on what the power needed. If you got, you know, on the back, the power distribution, they're limited by the amperage. So you got 80 amp power strips now, 480, and there's 4 of them. So instead of 2 being redundant, there's 4, and they've got the power where 1 goes down, the other 3 can hold it up. So everything's got redundancy.
Yeah. So I'm bringing this slide back up because we were talking about this before. You know, in the past, you go into a computer room, they had a UPS, and basically that UPS took care of condition all the power and was a backup for the servers. You never put mechanical loads on that UPS, right? So now these CDUs, which stands for cool distribution units, they have pumps in them, right? If that pump goes down, place is out of business, right? So now that has to have those CDUs, they have to have their own UPS. So half-hour runtime, wherever it is, in order for, you know, them to stay online or to give them an orderly shutdown or whatever the case may be, we don't recommend. I mean, you possibly could mix the two. You could put a electrical load with a mechanical load, but usually they don't jack, right? We don't do that, you know? So what you want to do is that CDU would have to have its own separate UPS with its own batteries. And it's just the way it has to be done.
You're talking huge UPS stuff.
Well,
180 volts.
yeah, I mean, you know, yeah, depending on how big the customer is with this AI stuff. I mean, yeah, you're talking about these, I mean, crazy amounts of power, megawatts, and I mean, it's nuts. I mean, and it's happening. It really is, guys. This isn't like pie in the sky. This stuff's happening right now. We have in the Northeast Ohio area of Cleveland, this whole territory around here, there's like 4 or 5 new data centers that are going up that are all talking about building this infrastructure into this. The colos that are around here, they're all putting this stuff in. It's nuts, you know. That's why somebody's going to call you and say, hey man, we got this problem and this is what we got to do and how do we cool it down? And you're going to say, oh, I know how to take care of that because the guys from Donwell were in talking to us about it. But this is something that you wouldn't even think about. I mean, I think about a computer room. I've been doing this for 40 years, right? I know how to cool that room down, how to use containment, you know, in-row cooling, perimeter cooling, whatever the case may be. We can handle it. But when you get to this stuff, it's a whole new game, man. So it's somebody who's going to throw it at you one day. It may not be tomorrow, but it might be in 6 months. And you're going to, yeah. Depending on it, let's say you pick up a customer, Parker Hannafin, Cleveland Clinic, whatever, and somebody's going to hit you with this stuff. We're like, it's pie in the sky, you know, this stuff's going to go away, but nah, it ain't going away.
Are they doing this at H5?
They've got plans for it. I don't know how far along they are. A lot of people that are moving on things now are, you know, they've already got an idea in mind. They've already sold, you know, a project for something and they're moving forward. But the colos generally don't move on something until they've got like
The need for it.
50% of a space sold, right? So if they're gonna build out liquid, that means half of it's already rented, right, in principle, so. They're not moving quite as quick as some of the other guys that are just doing maybe one rack somewhere or putting together a plan for something bigger. The cryptocurrency people, they've got their eyes on this stuff. In fact, we're moving quickly with one of them. Joe and I are not too in tune with that one, but this guy's got major backing out of China. And it's like as fast as we can figure it out for him, they're ready to write a check, which is
What I can't figure out, and I think Cleveland, Northeast Ohio is it's a great area because the weather's pretty good here. We don't have earthquakes. We don't have, what's the worst thing we have? Maybe tornadoes or something, right?
Yeah.
Why more people haven't built these big data centers in our areas? Now they're starting to again, okay? But I think it's because of the infrastructure. The city or whoever didn't put the infrastructure in to allow these people to come in. Like they were talking about today, if you fly into Dallas Airport, not Dallas, but Dulles, okay, over there by DC and Virginia, you're landing there. You see all these huge buildings, okay? And it's all they are is data centers. So I guarantee it's coming our way. It's definitely coming our way. You agree?
yeah. My favorite chart, in fact, is power usage by city
Yeah.
around the world, right?
Yep.
There's one giant line, the whole page. The next one, like here, is Beijing, and then they go down. That line is Northern Virginia.
Yep.
That area of Northern Virginia is more.
If you Google that, yeah, do a Google search on that, you'll see them all. And I want to be the lever rep in that area, let me tell you. That cat made a lot of cash.
It's a factory office for a reason.
It's probably all government contractors.
Well, it's the Googles of the world, it's the, who else?
Oh, you're not wrong.
I mean, they all kind of go where everyone else is, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they flock together.
Yeah. So, if you think about this box he's talking about right here, let's say you had a customer that had no space to put any equipment. Okay, so in the past, you guys are familiar with perimeter cooling. So that's all we did was perimeter cooling. But we actually make that unit, okay, which is now an air handler. It could be on the roof or it could be on the ground. And if the customer doesn't have, the space to put perimeter cooling, like big units, you can put this on the roof or the ground, duct it in, and it's got the ICOM and it's got the econophase, which, again, that's pumped refrigerant. So you might see all kind of different stuff, but again, this is that econophase is something else. Now, Jared's going to talk about this new cool phase, which looked like a mini split.
Yeah, so for a long time, people have been just opting to put a mini split in a server space. The problem that is, besides the fact that Joe and I get nothing out of the sale, is that there's no control of humidity in that space. Humidity is important for artillery as well. If you go too low on it, you get too low humidity, you got static electric shock risk, which fries everything. You go too high, you got water dropping two vents and then you fry and stuff, right? If you're in the middle of a building somewhere, maybe it's not a big concern. We got people that have data closets, a little server room, right by the entrance and exit to a door that comes open 500 times a day, and they got a mini split in there, and they're always complaining about humidity as well. Maybe don't put the mini split in there, right? Well, Vertiv's answer to that is this system here, full face wall. Now, we'll look at some of the performance factors in a moment, but it's platinum rated, so you can put the condenser indoors, outdoors. You can duct to it if you need to. It's variable speed compressors, where a lot of mini splits are low, medium, high, some like even less. Using new refrigerant, R32, low ambient heat, low down to 31. It's all metal construction.
And that's not something you got to build up, okay? So if you get a regular mini split and it's not rated for low ambient, you could have issues. So you got to build that. You got to build that condensing unit up so it runs in low ambient. Usually it's 5 degrees. Okay, with a mini split, I don't think they go any lower than that. But maybe some of them now are going down to minus 20. But I think you got to buy that's not their normal condensing unit. So, if you guys do any mini splits? Yeah, so who do you use? Mitsubishi or?
There's a variety.
Yeah,
One of them,
so do you ever have to use a low ambient one?
yeah, we use the low ending ones most often.
Okay, and how much more is that box cost you?
I don't know that they're that much.
It's an add-on depending on how low we're trying to go. There's a wind baffle that they just mount on the condenser. I think you've done some of
I'm
those.
talking about those breathing.
Oh, the breeze, I'm not sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, they started.
Myron would know, I know.
Yeah. There, Myron?
He can't.
I can't hear.
About
Yeah, I'm here.
They basically started making all of them with the low ambient capable componentry. You just needed to add the wind baffle. Before that, they were separate systems. They kind of got wise to that. And they're like, we'll just make them all ready.
Right.
Difference here, who's ever had to try to weld to brace something in a mini split? Ever try to brace something in? And you burn the thing to the ground, might as well burn away, right? So this is all metal construction. Instead of a fan wheel, each of these three sections here are for, you got redundant UC fans. Fan goes down, pull one out, put one in, the other two are still running. So you got no downtime with that. Again, it's much more robust. It's going to operate with a humidifier. It's going to control your humidity space. And it's going to blow out a long tire see it done. You can go nice. So this is just a quick look at a couple of popular competitors. So this for the original name is Wallmate, so that's why the model number's not there. They change it. So this is our 7 kilowatt size, which is like the 3-ton. And it goes up to 11 kilowatts. So we got capacity, sensible capacity, is what we're concerned with when it comes to service bases. Comparable to the other two. Much more efficient. And that's because we got variable speed compressor. Airflow considerably higher. So you're getting much less hot spot activity in a room. More air. Inverter compressor, like I said. Humidifier, that's standard, so you set a humidifier for it. Ambient standard is 4. Ambient optional, maybe 31. These are interchangeable. This standard is just in case it's an indoor setup. And we're just laying on a panel instead of the remote. So, yeah, of course, and then monitoring the standard. So it's going to hook in with BMS standard.
So that's just to let you know that we have something in the that world for these little computer room closets. You know, I would use this in, you know, anything bigger than that. Although I've seen people put them in computer rooms and especially Mitsubishis or Daikins or whatever the case may be, you say, oh, I could just throw a mini split on the wall. It runs for a year and then it has problems. And then, you know, well, the servers are overheating and it's because you know, I'm a big proponent, guys, of putting the cold air where it needs to be and getting the hot air where it needs to be. So we got a mini split, right? And you put it in a data center. Oops, sorry.
They're good. That's the last.
Yeah, no, I just want to say, you know, picture this as being any mini split, right? And you put this on a wall. And it's throwing its cold air out. And let's say it's in a little closet that's this big or whatever. And there's a rack right here, and that cold air just hits the rack, and then it just short cycles and goes back. Okay. So I'm not a big proponent of it. I never have been. I want to put the cold air where it needs to be. So if this is the rack, I want and this is where the cold air needs to be. I want the cold air to go here. I want the hot air to go back to the return of the unit, right? So that we don't have short cycling. The computers get, you know, cooled down real nice. So we are always going to tell you that we'd like you to see use a Mini-Mate, which is our, you know, small product. You put a little bit of ductwork on it, bring the cold air to where it needs to be, and let it free return. And keep the units from short cycling, that type of thing. So these have their place, as well does mini splits. Okay, they have their place. But I can tell you this: we have more customers that buy a mini split. Okay, and a year and a half to 2 years later, they call us up and say, "Hey, we need to put a Mini-Mate or something else in CRV because we can't count on that many. Yeah. So try to be an advocate of good airflow practices, and you have a happy customer, you become their consultant, and use us to help in that. You know, we're glad to go on a call with you and tell them why they should be using Vertiv equipment versus XYZ. So, is that all slides you got?
Mhm.
Any other questions, guys? That's about all we got. Yes, sir.
I heard AI, if it doesn't know the answer, it makes shit up.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
My son,
Is that strange?
my son's a law professor. He's teaching law, contract law in Chongqing, China. So they give you ask, what's the story on this particular case? So they cite court cases from the Supreme Court in 2026.
Yep.
They just made that up.
Just made it up.
The court didn't say anything.
No, 2026, ain't even there.
No,
There's something else that's happening.
make shit up.
I have a website and my website lives on reviews. I either get reviews or I don't. You know, they gotta be coming constantly, can't have both of them in there. In any event, with this AI thing happening, it makes shit up, it does.
Yeah.
I don't have any complaints. I've got 50 reviews or whatever, and one of them gave me a 4-star instead of a 5. That's as low as it goes, okay? Never had a complaint. The AI is inventing complaints and putting them on my website. No shit.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. So it's, you know, it's kind of scary. So when you're on your computer and you're typing and that thing's finishing your sentence for you, and that's not what I want to say. Or if you're talking in your phone and you just talk to text and it's finishing your sentence for you, and that's not what I meant to say. You really got to watch and see what you're saying. I mean, shit's coming, man. That you know, just like they have all these robots and stuff that are supposed to be coming out now, right? I mean, they're coming.
And on my website, people tell me, yeah, this.
You don't stop.
They don't know.
You don't have to think. Well, you do think because to me, I just can't. I can't trust that stuff. I don't know. Just like the car you drive, you got a Tesla, it'll drive you home, whatever. It's all.
My
It's
wife
all
got-
covered, man.
She got hit by a driverless
Did she?
car. Yes, she did.
Yeah, was it a Tesla or what was it?
No, I can't remember what type of car it was. She said that the insurance company, the guy was real nice about it,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's driverless car. He was back behind the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't driving. The car was doing all the driving. And
Oh.
it hit her right on the side.
It's all coming.
Yeah.
This stuff is real and we can't stop it. I mean, so the best thing we can do is try to, you get a customer that says, hey, I got this stuff coming and we gotta cool it down somehow and we do the best we can to take care of it, you know? So crazy stuff. I never would have thought in a million years, you know, like I said, I started doing this stuff in '86 and just blows my mind that I thought 10 years ago it was crazy what happened in the world with all this stuff and how the heat densities were huge and but it's just this stuff is crazy. So if you get a chance to go to a seminar on AI, I would highly suggest going to it. If we have another one that we have come around possibly next year in 26, we'll make sure you get an invite. And I would highly recommend that if you can make it. You know, usually it's a half a day or a day. And our last one, we had about 100 people.
Mhm.
And I think I sent you an invite.
Yeah, we might have.
Yeah,
It was earlier in the year, right?
it was in April.
Oh, yeah. I'm blessed.
Yeah.
The good thing is, a lot of pipe, a lot of refrigerant pipe, a lot of work.
A lot of work for the HVAC
It
contract.
doesn't take away from the fact that it's all gotta get built and maintained and kept running, right? It's great.
By the time it's installed, then it's obsolete anyway.
Here, I mean, think about it from our first seminar was 2 years ago. We held it in Pittsburgh. And how much has changed since then? And that one was packed with people. All these companies sent all their executives to come and see what's going on, KeyBank and Bear, and all these companies out of Mellon Bank and Google, and all these people are into this stuff, and it's just crazy. So I will tell you that if you get a chance to read about it, if you want to Google it, say how do you cool an AI data center? That's probably the best thing you do is go on Google and actually type this stuff in and see what we're kind of telling you about, and there'll be so much stuff there to learn. It's absolutely nuts. So
Any comment on whether the electric company is gonna be able to generate enough electricity for these?
yeah, well, go ahead,
I mean, I kept that whole thing off. I mean, if we wanted to say for 3 hours, we could go through the power side of it. Talk about an entirely new world for those.
new
folks.
concept.
The utility is not keeping up, and the utility in a lot of places, when people are discussing, I need 20 megawatts for a build out, and they say that sounds like 20 years. We'll let you know. A big portion of Vertiv's portfolio is now the bring your own power movement. So we have battery energy storage systems. We're working with power generation folks.
That's why Clinton's not.
Eventually,
Yeah.
I mean, we've already the government's already released restrictions on small scale nuclear, and that's obviously got its time to come. But down the road, you're gonna have your own power generation, storage, and right on site to keep up because the utility can't.
The bring your own, the bring your own power and the best systems, better, was it
Battery
energy storage systems, best.
I live right nearby Pitt, Ohio, but they can generate 78 to 80% of all they need from the rooftop solar. And so when the neighborhood goes down, they can turn off a couple of lights and just keep running the Pitt, Ohio truck on Chevy Boulevard.
Yeah, over there, yeah.
Our factory in Delaware, Ohio is 12 megawatts of power. They have 5 acres of solar and 2 acres of support built up, and it's 1 megawatt. And so 5 acre, basically 7 acres in total usage is 1 megawatt. These guys are talking about, well, we just want to throw 20 megawatts in here real quick in a little building. The solar, it's great, but you have to end up making it yourself, and you gotta create it at this point.
Bring your own power.
Yeah, the electric side is a whole other ball of wax. We sat through it today.
Well, back in the day, I taught electricity 35 years. Pretty familiar with the game. But they designed Perry. It was based on the fact that electric demand was going to increase 7% a year. And it never fell. They are never, ever going to build Perry 2. Perry 1. That's it.
That's all.
No,
and
there's no
You
need for it.
got to understand, it's well before all of this stuff that's now coming out with this computing that's taking this kind of power. That's why what was the percentage of how many companies are actually doing their own power? Bring your own power. It's not a joke. It's actually happening. And those battery energy storage systems are actually happening because the utility cannot provide the power that is required. So
And it's transmission too. It's not necessarily.
Yeah, T&D.
Yeah.
It's the only,
So
all infrastructure.
back in
Yeah.
the big 2003, Iowa Falls never missed a beat. They had their own generator in the whole 9 yards.
when we had the blackout,
Yeah,
Yeah, a friend of mine works, he's a linesman. He said that there was a 5-year plan to bring some transmission from Pittsburgh through to Columbus, straight through.
yeah,
15 years later, they're finishing it. I mean,
yeah.
that's just the idea. I mean, that's the way the world is. I mean,
T&D is the big, that's all over the whole country. 345, and then there's 138, 33, 69, 13,
yeah. The
yeah, it's kind of hard to fathom, and some of the stuff is like hard to believe is actually ever going to happen. And but I mean, these companies, and we're not the only one that's spending a ton of money on creating all this infrastructure. We have a lot of competitors out there that are building this stuff, so a lot of people are putting money into it. And I don't think they'd be doing it if it wasn't real, you know what I
When they
mean?
shut down, the East Lake 5,
Mm-hmm,
Perry 9.
mm-hmm,
So that's 650 megawatts, 650 megawatts. Perry is 1207,
mm-hmm.
1.2.
And Perry was only supposed, Perry was only supposed to last 20 years. Right? They were supposed to shut it down, but that ain't happening,
40 years ago.
right?
The same with Davis Bastion and Luna Pier.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
just renewed it, right?
Did they talk about the nuclear power?
They talked about it a little bit today. So in the last couple, well, since this administration came in, they removed a lot of restrictions on the development. Europe's a lot further ahead with small scale nuclear development than we are, but they're still not at the point where, like, they're every other block. It's still in its infancy. You hear differing you hear differing opinions. Sorry, I was talking to somebody the other day. He goes, "Oh, it's 20 years away." And you hear other people, they go, "It's less than 10. It's just a matter of scaling it down." I don't know what to believe.
There's 6 transmissions in the United States. Texas, the state of Texas has their own system. They're not connected to the other
Yeah.
parts of the country.
Not part of the grid, huh?
It didn't work real well during that ice storm.
Right.
They didn't do any water cold protection.
Yeah.
They said, that's not gonna happen.
I'm a big proponent of it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's literally magic, right? You're generating heat, steam, and creating power from the earth, minerals, right? It's wild when you think about it. It's as close as you get to just pure science fiction that we take for granted. It's got a bad rap for a lot of, places that were not well maintained and well kept that had their issues, right? And those types of plants aren't. Chernobyl's not the kind of plant that people would build today, or we're building then in our country. So
Aren't they redoing
it's got a
that plant?
stigma about it. What's that? Are they redoing?
I think they're redoing that plant. aren't they?
3 Mile Island.
They are redoing it.
They are.
Yeah.
After they get rid of the two-headed gods.
The big thing is storage for all these technical.
Yeah.
That's where the AI started at. It's always AI shit. Who knows, man? I don't know. It's kind of scary, like we were talking about before. It's a different world than that I grew up in. And I didn't tell Jarrod this, but I'm sitting in a room today. And I sat all the way in the back. We sat in the back, and I looked around and I said, "Oh, fuck, man, there's not another guy in here with gray hair." And I said, "I'm like, this is well beyond me, right?" And so I'm like semi-retired. I work 3 days a week. Jarrod's taking my place. Yeah, it's totally different than what I know, but was kind of scary today to actually realize that everybody that I know that worked at Lieber, okay, they're gone. Everybody's either retired, moved on, got fired, whatever the case may be. There's like 5 people I know that in our heyday that used to be at Lieber, and whole different world, man. So you're in good hands with this guy right here, or I'll be around for a while too. If you get a room and you need help, you have a question, you want to talk about containment, you want to talk about just any question, we're here to help you. And we love it, man. We love talking about computer rooms and data centers and cooling it and using containment, so that's about it, right?
My only real selfish plug for Vertiv, and this will make sense to you guys. If you Google this stuff, right? Liquid cooling, direct to chip liquid cooling, you're going to see 500 names pop up. This company, that company. Every single website looks like they got it together. Like you can order it. Like they've got deployments everywhere.
It's on the show. Yeah.
They're not. No one's making any. I mean, these are people. A lot of these are really small operations. They're making a couple of things a year. Vertiv's at scale in the United States, working under the current restriction of tariffs and doubling their capacity in Elkhorn Point, South Carolina, as we speak, for the plant they just built. Committed to making these products in America as fast as they can. And they've been doing it since the sixties as a corporation making Peter American mission. They're the only ones that are actually producing this. Actually at scale can make a commitment and stick to it. There's other big players, not like Vertiv, there's other guys that are actually making headway, and they're all being gobbled up. Trains buying one, JCI's buying the other, so everyone's getting in the game. Whereas like the last man standing are the folks that were original to the server room space, right? Yep. Yep. And so you see all this stuff out there, a lot of it's smoke and mirrors, a lot of it's just a pretty website.
AI generated.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I asked the Anand, President of Americas, face to face a year ago. I see all this stuff. Who's actually making it? No one.
Yeah.
Okay.
They ain't making it until they're designing it all.
Yeah. It works. They built some. It
What do
works.
you want?
They can't produce.
What we are making a lot of, and it's really cool, if you like you mentioned our Delaware plant. You go in this Delaware plant where we do all our power testing, we make our UPSs and different things like that. One of our big things that we're making now is containers. So, trucking containers, actually data centers inside these containers. These containers up, ship them to customers, they put them in a parking lot, or they can deploy a data center in no time. So stuff you would never think about. I would never think that there'd be a data center inside a trucking container. They're a little more sophisticated in a trucking container, but do you have any slides on that real quick?
I don't know if I have
But it's
any pictures.
It's so cool. I mean, we walked the plant, we got a customer we brought down there a couple weeks ago. And they're like, they were just blown away. They didn't realize that we even made anything like that. And, prefabricated, we have this thing called Smart Run, where we build the whole thing for you. You move it in, it's got the power, it's got the liquid cooling, it's got everything. It's got the racks, and all the mechanical has to come in, and he has to pipe that whole thing, and but basically we're setting this thing in place, and they're in business in no time. So it's kind of cool. I mean, going from being a raised floor air cooled guy that used to go and work on this stuff and start it up and all that stuff. I've seen so much over the years that it's just unbelievable how it's all changed so much. But so this would be this is a container, right?
This is one of the containers. Yeah, it's a little peeled away, but
Yeah.
18-wheeler, yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
think of a shipping container.
The walls are up, so you can see the racks in here, all the overhead power distribution and piping, and the condenser fans on the outside, and unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable.
The one we saw down there were 4 or 5 of these going together, right? The one on the end had space open. Like, they're putting a bathroom on the end there. There's gonna be enough people on site. They're just leaving some of it blank. They're stuffing stuff in. So I mean, there's a lot of thought been going into the modular stuff, because
So with that, I would say if we don't have anything else, we'll get out of your hair here, and we thank you again for your time.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Joe.
nice seeing
Thank
you
you,
guys.
Jarrod.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Hey, you're working on a Liebert unit.
See
Tom has my number. See you, Myron. If you get called on a Liebert unit, I used to work on,